Can I just see a sort of show of hands of why people are here in terms of, because this isn't necessarily a talk about what Skeptics in the Pub is about, it's more a talk of for people that are running Skeptics in the Pub, thinking of running Skeptics in the Pub. And so if you're thinking of starting your own Skeptics in the Pub and you come here to find more about what's the ways of setting that up, could you raise your hand?
What, blimey.
Okay.
That's pretty good.
I think
raise your hand and or child.
Yeah, he might be a bit young, but
yeah.
Start working on him now. Yeah.
Skeptics in the Playgroup. It's
and are the people here that run a Skeptics in the Pub and are looking to get more people or find better ways of doing things?
Oh wow.
Okay, so that's really good, because it'd be quite good to have, if you have any answers to any other questions that people are having problems with as well, feel free to chip in as well. Don't just use us for answers. And maybe we can learn things from you as well. So I guess, should I just start with a quick summary of what's available for new Skeptics in the Pub?
Yeah,
organised?
Sounds
good. So there's no formal process at all for Skeptics in the Pub. It's and I really like it like that because anyone can just set something up, set up their own website, and it's not a protected brand or anything. And I think that's really important, because the people really need the freedom to run it how they see fit, because that will encourage more people to run them. So there's no president of Skeptics in the Pub International or anything like that. But what I put together is when I set up Leicester Skeptics in the Pub, which was the first one outside London, I did it very much with the thought of I want this to roll out everywhere. So and that meant I wanted to kind of prove it could work outside London, because people were quite sceptical of that. And secondly, while I was doing it, I wanted to kind of document everything that I did to try and turn that into a franchise. And thirdly, when I set up the website, I set it up in a way that I can just basically turn another one on for another group. So in terms of tools that are available, we've now got a document that doesn't tell you what to do, but it tells you what I did. So you do it your way, but it's kind of a document. This is what I did, and with some bits of information that have been added from other people, and that includes everything from how to start by setting up a venue, finding a venue, to a very short list that needs to be fixed now of starter speakers, because there are many speakers that are really more than enthusiastic about just doing the opening talk to get the group moving. It includes things like setting up, getting in contact with me to set up the website, how we've gone about booking speakers in the past. So it really is. It's a good guidebook. It's not telling you what to do, but it's telling you how other people have done it before, so you can get some good ideas. And then the website's something that can be set up. You can either, many of the groups. Marsh runs his own. Marsh's group runs his own website. Several of the other groups run their own websites. But there is a central portal that you can get in contact with me and say, I'm setting up a Skeptics in the Pub group, can you put me on the portal? And you get your own website sometimes within 10 minutes, if you catch me at the right time. But it has happened within 10 minutes. So you get your own website set up very quickly. You can log in, add events from an admin area. It handles all of the things for people to subscribe to mailing lists. It will allow you to send the reminder emails out with all of the events information automatically in there. There's a contact form. It's linked into Google Calendar, so it's great. You add an event through the admin area and 100 iPhones can change instantly. So it's all set up with that kind of thing in there. So really all this has been designed just to make it really, really easy for people to set up groups, and seems to be working. So with that in mind, all you really need to do is ask for the document. We are thinking about actually properly rolling this out and putting a website guide together. But at the moment, it's just a document that you have to ask for. Have any of you got sort of specific questions? Because we want to make this mostly a Q&A session. Have you got anything you want to say first?
No, I just expect this to be if you guys have anything that you think we might be able to help on, have any information on, and answer any questions on, or if not, there might be questions in the answers in the audience that we can source, really. So it's a bit of an interactive kind of thing.
Hi. I'll start out with a question. the best way to get people there, obviously we've got the internet, Twitter, Facebook, etc. But have you found that is really the only and obviously the cheapest way, or do you use kind of offline marketing, dare I say, to get people there as well?
Okay. So to get people there, there's the first event and there's once it's running. In terms of the first event, I have found no way of getting more than about 7 or 8 people. What you need to do is do 100 ways of getting one person. I'll do everything. When I started, I went on the local radio and I got a couple of people from that. I managed to get the new local newspaper. I got 3 or 4 people from that. I got 3 or 4 people from Twitter, 3 or 4 people from Facebook, and it really mounts up. And I think some of the groups, like for instance the Cardiff group, managed to get a lot of people from the people travelled for it. As well for the first one. So they had quite a nice boom at the start because people were coming from other areas to see the place opened up. So I think that started them off with a good group of people. Another really good one is other groups of a similar nature. So if you've got like a humanist group around, philosophy groups.
Yeah, Café Scientifique. There's a few of those knocking about, yeah.
And you can actually contact, if you haven't got a Café Scientifique, what I've done is I've contacted them because we used to have one in Leicester and it's gone. And if you go to the Café Scientifique Leicester page, it says there isn't one, but there is Skeptics in the pub now. So there's little things like that can help just drive the occasional person over to the group.
You sort of did it all at once, didn't you? When you first set up, you just went for a big bang kind of starter where you get one speaker in.
Yeah, we kind of got Simon saying it was a big bang.
It was very big bang, exactly.
Yeah. I mean, the first thing you want to do is find a venue. So once you've got the venue, you want to get a speaker in, and I reckon, in my opinion, it's about you want to leave it 2 months, because if you leave it longer than 2 months, you won't do anything, and it's always easier to do it tomorrow. And I don't think if you're going to contact that number of people and get the excitement going, I think you need at least 2 months. So I think 2 months is about right, and then spend every evening and weekend.
Yeah, it is very much be prepared to put a lot of time into it to begin with very little initial reward.
Initially, it's a lot of work, but once it's running, it's easy.
Yeah.
Once it's running, I mean, once it's been going a year, it's just there's very, very little work to do to keep it going. Would you agree?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, the only thing I would sort of add to that is, I mean, you went for the approach where you get a speaker in first and then have everyone sort of turn up. We actually did it a little bit differently in a way to sort of mitigate a little bit of risk if there was any sort of risk in there, to make sure they actually had some sort of demand by. I think we set up in February and we didn't have a speaker till October, but we had sort of monthly socials to a point where we were getting 30 people along. But to begin with, you were getting 5. And that was quite an exciting period of my life. I was like, I'm organising an event and 5 people have come.
Well, ours, what you say isn't quite true, because we did try that and we didn't even get 5. So
wow.
I think I got 5 people contact me about it over the period of about 6 months. So so we realised that just hit it with a bang with a top speaker, obviously getting Simon in, that was a lot of pressure on me, because as soon as I knew Simon was coming, it wasn't something I could roll out and 10 people could come up. I had to perform. So I put an enormous amount of effort at that point and found the largest pub in Leicester to host it. And we had, you must have had 65 people? Yeah.
I mean, getting the venue right is absolutely key. Because I know it's something that I was up in Glasgow, and you guys actually have a venue like we've just got, where there's the PA system's entirely all built in, projector, everything, and it just that brings down a hell of a lot of organisation. If you just find a venue that's actually got that there, you just plug a laptop in and go.
But it's tough to find. You won't find the perfect venue. We've got a projector, we've got a HD projector, we've got a PA system. To be fair, it's rubbish. We're bringing our own, but we've got a PA system. We've got a massive pub. We've got a pub with a series of different height tables, so you can nicely cascade them, and we've got terrible beer. So you can't have everything.
Yeah.
But it's the only pub that's large enough to host us in Leicester, because we're getting. I mean, our record was about 230 people with Richard Wiseman, so they can get huge, and it's always over 100 now. So we need a huge pub. So you have to compromise on something. So we drink shit beer and go to a different pub afterwards. Sorry. So you can I just finish on that point? There's two. So that's starting it up, and there's actually a lot more information in the guide as well. That's starting it up to get the initial buzz going. But once you've got it going, there is one, and this starts from the second meeting. There is one set of people that you can get that will give you 80% of your crowd. And I said there was nothing that will give you 100 people. There is one thing that will give you 100 people, and that's the people that have been there before. So I am really, really adamant with getting people to sign up to the newsletter.
Yeah.
People will not fill out the website form. So I've got a contact form that I take to every Skeptics in the Pub, name, email address, and how did you hear about us, with the words block capitals please written in every email form, because they'll misspell their email addresses or you can't read them. And that's where we get, that is the, in terms of long-term success, that's what it is, because people will come up, they won't put their email address down, and they'll forget about it. But sending them an email 2 weeks before and an email 2 days before, they'll get it. Most people, most people in this room are on Twitter all the time, so they'll see it anyway. But back in the towns themselves, that's just not the case. It's just not the case. And also flyers work very well.
I was going to say flyers, posters, that kind of thing. I know what we tend to do is we'll produce a poster with about sort of 3 weeks or so. I think is the right kind of area we've kind of find to give people enough kind of time between the sort of around the 3 week area before the event. And we just got a list of people who are willing to put that up in their, they work in university, stick it up in their department, stick it in the local library, stick it in any kind of there's an arts centre in Liverpool that we stick it up in, and that it might only get in 1 or 2 people a time, but if those people are returning, then over the course of 6 months you're adding a decent amount, and those people are going to get other people in.
And what we do it slightly differently. So we've got an A5 leaflet on one side. We've got a description of what Skeptics in the Pub's about. On the other side, we list the next 6 events. So we can print 5,000 fairly cheaply. It's about 80 quid or something to print. No, it's about 40, 50 quid to print about 5,000. But they'll last 4 or 5 months, and then the next lot's ready to go, and you don't need to keep changing them. The other thing that's really good at bringing people in, and for instance, for the Richard Wiseman talk, this contributed 100 people to one event. So we're going from a normal of 100 to 150 to 230. And that is, if you've got certain key speakers that are very good, and Richard Wiseman's a very entertaining speaker, and also a very wide appeal. And Richard Wiseman's got a very much a wide appeal within doing everything that he's done in the past. You've got a real opportunity to bring new people in and have them stay. So what I'll do is I'll start building those talks up 3 months in advance and mentioning this is a particularly good speaker for new people, and bring your friends to this one, and not quite discourage them from bringing their friends to the next event, but if people come into that event, they'll keep coming back. Okay.
I think we had a question at the back before.
Simon was before me, so.
Okay. Well,
just to add on to the previous question, I think if you can get on the local radio or local press, and it's a very frustrating business because talk to the news editor, they're not interested, then talk to the features editor, they're not interested, talk to breakfast radio, they're not interested, get dry. But once you make one contact, then you can go back to them each month, and so you've got a new person. And if you can do the interview prior to the event, obviously that's going to drum up people. And so Richard talking about luck, and there's this, is Leicester the luckiest city in Britain, or Edzard's condemning alternative medicine in Ipswich, a local angle, something will be a good hook. One, you're going to get more people come to the event, and then 2, the message you're trying to get out goes beyond to 1,000 to 5,000 people who may be listening. So it's frustrating, it's hard work, but it's worth the effort, I think.
I think we did have a question at the back.
Yeah, actually, it's funny enough, it's a follow-up to Simon's psychic, obviously. The point I was going to answer, the question I was going to ask basically is, you've got the outreach to the local media.
Sorry, I can't hear you.
You've got outreach to the local media where you kind of do things to get them to pay attention to your events. But one of the problems obviously is with any group you can be preaching to the choir a lot, and you pull in a lot of people, and there's that nice idea of being a bit evangelical and actually pushing it out as well. And I'm wondering whether, have any of you had experience, or has anybody in here actually had experience of doing stunts like the 1023 or something like that they felt really made a difference to growing their introduction to people who might normally have not been interested in science or skepticism? Is there anything you could think of or have experienced that might open up to that?
Within Skeptics in the Pub, the I guess the best example I can come for is that people are skeptical of religion, so they come to religious talks and they've never heard of the fact that alternative medicine is just a big scam. So they come to the alternative medicine sport. So you've got one hook into somebody, and you use it to spread the whole all information about skepticism. You get them on the religion angle, and you bring them in on the alt med, or you get them on the alt med angle, and you bring them into or the psychics, or there's so many areas. By covering a wide topic range, you're bringing people in from different topics. I mean, I brought we had one on, which I'll probably get a boo from everyone in this room, but we had one on the fair trade. The fair trade movement from an economist, and it was a particularly right-wing individual that did the talk, but it was quite and that created an incredible debate. But one thing it did do is it brought several economists from the local university along to hear the talk, and lots of them now come back. So there's another idea. If you've got, for instance, a talk in a certain area, contact the local universities.
Yeah, that is key, really.
It's in that subject range because their students will be interested in it. And actually, you can actually get your events published on the local university event list as well. So it's kind of difficult with things like this because obviously non-skeptics don't come to a skeptics in the pub, but you can take a skeptic from one area and move them into a skeptic in all areas, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, I think reaching out to the university is absolutely key, not just when it comes to publicising it, although that is obviously a huge benefit, but also when it comes to speakers, because obviously you've got your big speaker to start off with. You can't be necessarily having big speakers every week, so you'll find that there are actually some fascinating people in your local university. I mean, we actually found in Liverpool there was a chap whose name I completely forget now, but he works at the LHC with Brian Cox. So he was just local, didn't cost us a penny, and gave an absolutely fantastic talk. And just reaching out to the various related departments of university, you can find some fantastic speakers without actually having to break the bank or having to have a huge turnout to cover costs.
You really need to do that earlier on, because you might be getting 20 to 30 people, £2 each. You're not going to be able to get someone's train up from London and kind of make sure you host them well by taking them out for a meal or something or before and buy their drinks and things like that. So you do need, if your group's not that big, you need to make sure you source your speakers locally, because it will cost you a lot less.
We've got a purple hand in the back there.
That's actually something that I was very curious about when it comes to startup costs, because that's the thing that's putting me off. I've been running Irish Skeptics in the Public for a year, and it's purely social, because there's the Irish Skeptic Society, they ask for money and I don't ask for money. So do you ask for money up front with a membership fee, or do you put the money in yourself and then hope to recoup afterwards?
Well, I put the money in myself and hoped to start it up. I put the money in myself. Now it's going. We make donations to Sense About Science and things like that with the profits. But to start with, I risked my own money. I'm on now we've made profit. I'm on this kind of balance between providing an insurance guarantee for anyone starting a new group, which I'd be happy to do. But the other side of it is that takes away from the incentive to make it succeed. So I'm not sure where to go with that, but I have helped out before when people have lost a lot of cash. I do remember when one was set up, Chris French went there and they forgot to take any money, and I won't name the group, and Chris had flown there, and at the end of it he said, "Oh, sorry Chris, I forgot to get any money." Yeah. And Chris flew home again with not even his expenses paid. So I gave Chris we had profit from our group, so I paid for his train fare from that. But it's not the best thing to do.
No, I mean,
you should probably risk your own money rather than your speakers.
Well, there are ways around it as well. I mean, you say you're running a social event. I mean, when we started off just running social events for, I'd say, 8 months, something like that. And we found that to get our first couple of speakers together, we actually had a pint glass passed around the social saying, look, we're going to start getting Chris French and Simon Singh up here, but we'll need a bit of funds to at least make the initial train fare for the first one before they start paying for themselves. And even if people are just throwing in 50p over the course of a couple of months, you'll find that you'll gather a little bit of a coffer which you can then use to get the speaker in, and then slightly strong arm people into giving 2 or 3 quid at the end of the talk, and sort of grow from there, really. So if you've got a good reliable turnout coming to socials, then that might be a good way of kind of sourcing a bit of
all I was going to say is the only thing is I have to fly everybody over. If I was going to go on that even, you know, making people fly Ryanair.
Yeah, you can. But you can. I mean, a lot of local. We find there's lots of.
I've had this conversation. Unfortunately, there's Irish Skeptics Society who have farmed out everybody in the Dublin area.
Right.
They've been going since 2003, so they've kind of capped that source, unfortunately. So I just wanted to put it out there, if anybody knows anybody who's having a city break in Dublin, wants to go to the pub one evening, I do have a free space that seriously, if anybody is happening to be in the country, I have access to a free space called the Exchange, but I can only have that space for free if I run the event for free.
Right.
I can't charge anything on the door, but then I have to pay that.
Well, you can't charge donation. You can't encourage donation either.
I can encourage donation. That's what I'm doing with George coming over next week.
We don't charge anything on the door. We've never charged anything on the door for any of ours, and I think that's a really sort of worthwhile point to make. Is that keeping the event free keeps it easy for people to just wander into, and you can then sort of say, look, if you really enjoyed it, this is something we put on for free. So here's a pint glass. It would be really great of you to put a pint's worth of cash in the glass, and people, given enough psychological pressure, will fold.
We charge on the door.
Oh, there you go. There's the alternative.
We aggressively say it's a voluntary donation on the door with Al, who's a good, big guy, so it works. So, Alan, did you have a question?
Yeah, the two Mackies, did they pay their own expenses from Opera?
I think they did. I think they might have done.
This is the Confidential Natural Healthcare Council. If you want somebody from them, the two Maggie, MEG.
The two Maggies, yeah.
The two Maggies. They're quite a couple of them.
Yeah, it wasn't the most. There's a problem with getting people from the quack side in that you do want to have open debate, and the Q&A is just loads of fun, but the talk will generally be really dull. And they're actually very entertaining speakers, but the topic was so boring that it made for a dull talk, but a really good fun Q&A.
See, I'm inclined not to
go. That was just that if they do advertise on their website, if you want a speaker for your group, then they provide the money.
And if people have got a book out as well, sometimes their publisher will pay for their transport expenses as well. So that's worth thinking about.
Yeah, you could also get sale and return on the books. I think we managed that with one of our speakers who had a book out. I think it was when David Aronovich had out. We contacted the publisher. He said, here's 40 books and just pay for the ones that you don't send back, and you get a margin on them, and that'll help cover the travel costs. So there are other ways around it, but I'm not sure if it'll get someone to fly into Dublin for it.
There's a guy at the back.
Yeah, I'm from Belfast, and hi Rebecca again. Just sort of what we could do as well is sort of bulk buy speakers, because now we have Belfast and Dublin and Cork and Galway. So hey, if anyone wants a week in Ireland.
Can I just add into that? I just thought of something while you were talking about it, and I thought this is just a suggestion, knock me down. But if you've heard of couch surfing.
Sorry?
Have you heard of couch surfing?
Yeah.
Right, well, I just suddenly dawned on me, well, why don't we try and get people to do Skeptics on the couch and actually have a situation where people who...
It sounds slightly seedy.
I'm a very sleazy guy talking to me today. But the point... I love it.
My suggestion is that perhaps why don't we have a Skeptics on the Couch group, or people to start networking on this level, and people have open invites. If anyone knows got a spare place, say you've got 10 places for somebody to crash at, go to Dublin because it's a great city to go to, or hang out in Liverpool and get absolutely drunk because they're brilliant to drink with, go to Edinburgh, whatever. Because we have a very social gathering here, and I've noticed everybody seems to share the love and get on really well. Perhaps that might be a way that we could energise the Skeptics in the pub by having it. Not only will people be able to see the speakers, but they get to realise that it's a much larger interrelated community, and build up a kind of a movement feeling, as it were, and get people kind of feeling more identified, and also, somewhere nice to stay for the weekend. So maybe that, perhaps once every few months do a special Skeptics on the couch session in whichever city, and obviously, do a security check on everybody involved. But referencing whatever we want to do as a method. Perhaps if anybody's good at that kind of thing, I'm just throwing it out there because that's my suggestion. That's it. Bye.
Just like to build on that, I think that's brilliant.
We have Alan just running around.
He wants to stay on your couch. You got two couches.
Hello. I'd like to build on that. I run Skeptics of the Pub Portsmouth and Couchsurfing Portsmouth. And a lot of the population who take part in couchsurfing are interested, either students or you know, and they're interested in both things. So I think it's a good thing to tap into.
Okay. Oh, here we go. We might have to start picking questions that are closer together before Alan has a heart attack here.
But one other way you can conceivably get someone from the other side is you can get someone on your side to pretend to be them. I mean, I offer this as a suggestion because we've done this at the university here in Manchester. It's where we use homeopathy sometimes as a sort of teaching topic to see how you can fool people with apparent data. And when we tried to do this the first time, we got Ben Goldacre to come and be the opposition, or David Colquhoun, but we couldn't get any of the local homeopaths to sign up to be the stooge. So in the end, we had to settle for having someone pretend to do it. But if this person can stay in character well enough, and in fact we've since done this a slightly different way, where we have the person doing the I'm a homeopath piece, and then they go off stage, and then they come back again wearing a different shirt, and they say, in fact, you know, the
it would be
best
very difficult not to misrepresent in that scenario, though,
Yes,
and to actually
absolutely.
think like someone who is a proponent of
yes,
something
it is a
pseudoscientific
bit,
and
yes, it is
disinclined.
misrepresenting. That's
And I must be, I don't think pseudoscientific guests or speakers, I don't think they tend to go down too well. We had one a little while ago, and as you said, that the talk was boring and nonsense, but then the Q&A was just like, it was a bloodbath. It was horrible. And you don't come away thinking, oh, wow, we did some real good. You come away thinking, well, we got one woman here and we almost made her cry. Fantastic, you know. It's not, you know, everyone comes away from that feeling bad, I think.
Yeah. You have a question here?
Thanks. I live about 5 miles from the largest concentration of homeopaths and alternative practitioners in the country.
But a concentration of them is very weak.
Hey, I like that. Yeah, that's a really good point. It's called Totnes, and I think it's got the lowest vaccination rates in the country. We have iridologists, we have reflexologists, and any other ology you like. Now, you said that you're not likely to get these people turning up to your Skeptics in the pub thing, but, you know, I wouldn't be so sure down there.
Oh, no, sorry, they turn up as guests, yes,
yeah,
but we're saying they don't make great speakers.
Yeah, but I mean, I can imagine that there could be a group of people there with banners on the pub doorstep. And if you look at the map of Skeptics in the pub, there is nothing from Bath down to the Isles of Scilly. And I just wondered if there's a reason for this. Are we all too scared to run a Skeptics in the pub down there? I mean, certainly.
I would be terrified to run one down there. It's miles away from where I live. The commute would be a nightmare.
Sorry, I missed that. I was listening to...
I was making a silly joke. It's fine.
Yeah, it's easy to do.
Yeah.
Anyway, so maybe we should be encouraged to try.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. I think it'd be interesting to see where the Skeptics in the pubs do lie in terms of where things like the lowest vaccination rates are, and whether we are sort of really working in areas that particularly need us, as it were. But I don't know what the solution to that is, apart from people who are living in that area being brave and think, actually, you know what, you will get people who are proponents turning up, and they make for terrible guests. They also make for terrible questioners in a question and answer session. So microphone discipline in the Q&A needs to be absolutely spot on, or they'll just rant.
Yeah, if you control the microphone for the Q&A, if you do what Alan's doing now, but actually hold on to it, if you've got a known quack.
If you give someone the microphone, they'll think it's theirs.
Yeah,
that's how it works.
You've got to be really careful, and a lot of them will try to take it off your hand. So you've got to be ready to bite them or something. Or protect the microphone with your life.
Anybody else want this job?
and follow-up questions. You have to stay fairly tight on those, or people just have a back and forth all day.
Yeah, there's one here, and there's one back there, and there's one there.
I was just going to say, Cheltenham Skeptics is right next to Stroud, which is hippie central of Gloucestershire. It really is. We've got ley lines and, oh God. And we're talking about doing a Skeptics in the coffee house, in the organic coffee house in the centre of Stroud, just to see whether we survive.
I mean, that probably raises something I'm sure you're going to probably come to now. Skeptics in the coffee house. I mean, that kind of pulls us into an area where doesn't have to necessarily take part in a pub, and I think that's something that is it's probably a very valid point that it looked like you were about to make. Am I second guessing you? There you go, $1 million challenge right here. Because I think we have had not criticism in the past. We have people saying, well, I don't really want to be in a pub, and I'm not really into the pub environment. It's a handy place, but having it in a coffee house, having it on a weekend afternoon, if you can't necessarily get a pub for the night, or people can't get people to come for a pub for night, is a potential valid option. I don't you think that, Sam? You look very, very dubious about.
You see, one of the things about Skeptics in the pub is that it's in a pub. I mean, that's like the last.
Well, yeah.
If you want something that's not in a pub, probably the Skeptics in the pub format isn't for you. And I think you need to set up an alternative format. I don't think because the Skeptics in the pub format is a brilliant format because it makes it accessible to so many people. Because people won't want to go to. There's a big turn-off of going to a science lecture at a university where you're sitting in the chairs. Whereas people feel much more comfortable taking their wives and mates down the pub for a lecture, and it creates a very relaxed atmosphere, and the alcohol kind of lubricates the social side of it as well. And it's not the only format, but it's a format that does work for a large number of people, and it may exclude people, but any format you've got will exclude people, including a coffee house. Yeah.
Social without a speaker. Yeah. I was just saying, you tend to have offshoots from Skeptics in the pub, in that you'll have Skeptics in the curry house after a Skeptics in the pub, or a social without a speaker. So, but they're all offshoots from Skeptics in the pub, which is in a pub.
Yeah, and many people come and don't drink. You know, it's not. You know, many people get a coffee or orange juice or something.
I don't understand that concept personally.
No, it's difficult.
I think we had.
There's a chap here. Well, he was about 3 behind actually, but we'll let him go.
Right, yeah. About getting special events to attract people along that might not normally go along. This probably won't be of any use to about 90% of the people in the room for about 4 years. But in Glasgow, we're actually doing a parliamentary hustings for the election in May. So we are expecting quite a big crowd for that, especially because it looks likely that we'll get the Deputy First Minister. So we should be a big crowd for that. And then when people hear the questions that are being asked by the normal members, then they'll see kind of what sort of stuff we're about and might be interested. And that might be something to consider in 4 years' time.
Well, once you've got a crowd together, just being able to go around and tell people what it's all about, and making sure that and it's something I always make a real point to do, and I'm sure other people who run groups do the same thing, is when people turn up, your job isn't just to sort of put on the event, but it's to make sure that they know who you are, what you're doing, and feel like they're welcome there. If you can speak to people as soon as they come in and make them feel like welcome and make it seem like you're just be very friendly. In fact, they're 90% more likely to come back the next time. If you leave people sat alone in the corner of the room to disappear as soon as the talk's gone and never have spoken to anyone, it's really hard to get them to return, I think. I don't know if that leads on to that at all, but yes, so at those kind of events, just make sure you publicise exactly what your group's about and what you got coming up and things that's there.
Who's next? This gentleman sitting right next to you.
Sorry. Hello. One of the most enjoyable meetings, at least for me, that we had in Skeptics in the Pub in Oxford was when we had Jack of Kent down, and we had an accidental or impromptu debate between Jack of Kent and one of our leading lawyers for the Crown Prosecution Service, who's a wonderful woman. But it's the fact that there was a debate, that there was two sides of an issue being shown rather than just one speaker.
Yeah.
And so I'd like to encourage people to do that more, have a debate between two people.
Yeah, I think that's important on the topics that aren't sort of clearly decided, where it's totally obvious. But I think, but I totally agree. I think it's good to have the debate. Yeah. There's a gentleman there, yes, with the scarf.
And then I think we'll come.
Is it gone?
Then just after that, we'll go just behind you there, because I know you've had your hand up a while, so we'll go to you next.
The lady in the pink from Totnes. Hello. Yeah, I used to live in Totnes as well. I'm in Exeter now, and so if you're interested, we could. There was a guy I met the other day who was interested in getting together. So if there's anyone you know. Yeah, we can make a start.
Sorry, and then we just go back on that.
At Westminster Skeptics, we've got a system we call Nice to Newbies, which is when we've asked for volunteers amongst our group, and we've said basically if people email or tweet us beforehand and say, oh, I really like the look of this, but I'm a bit self-conscious, I'm by myself, then I know that there are people that we could just collar and say, oi, this is whoever, and they endeavour to be nice to them that evening, so that they know they've got someone to sit down with, someone to drink with, and after the first evening they'll feel ensconced in the group. And I think that's so important because my first ever Skeptics event, I went by myself and I made lots of friends on the first evening. But if you're shyer than I am, I guess a lot of people would have perhaps wouldn't even go in the first place unless they could know that there was going to be some kind of welcoming crowd there.
Yeah, that's one of the most difficult things I find. I've now luckily it's big enough now that I've got one guy doing the sound, one guy collecting the money. And now I've put that round, I just try and nip round and greet people. But it's so difficult when you're organising the speaker at the same time and trying to get people to do that. Have you find that works quite well when you've been running that?
Yeah, it works great. And in fact, I think
Okay, like ambassadors, like a Skeptics in the Pub ambassador, meet and greet people.
Greeter, yes.
Actually, something I know that happens at the Manchester Skeptics, which I think it's pretty cool, is they actually managed to get, and not everyone will be able to get this, but they managed to get a very slight discount on the drinks if you're wearing a certain name badge. So it's only something like 5% off the drinks, but it means everyone's walking around with a Skeptics, like Manchester Skeptics, and then their name on it. And it just means it's so much easier for people to start a conversation with new people, and it just gives people a bit of an in. Now, even if you can't get the drinks discount, which you probably can't, having the name badges might still be a way of getting people to start a conversation and feel like they're a little bit more familiar with people, or a bit of an icebreaker or something, I'm not sure.
And I think if I can say something, since I'm in control of the microphone, it's also a good way of delegating some of the tasks and making people feel involved in it. If you can get people that you don't, most people get the skills to go and say, I'm new here, or sorry, you've got your badge, and talking. They don't need organisational skills. And you can fan out to quite a lot of people. With
once you get to a decent sort of core of regular people who are turning up sort of week in, week out, then you can start just saying to people, right,
how
you wander around and talk to 3 new people at each meeting, kind of thing, or just greet everyone.
And I think just although a lot of people here probably are capable of doing everything themselves, try and delegate it out to other people and spread the load a bit, and don't just take it on your own.
Yeah, because you'll always get, everyone comes in within a 20-minute period, so if you've got a large number of people doing that, you can't do that by yourself anyway. Cool. Any more questions?
Next question. There's one just behind that. Yeah.
Just going back to the point that's been made about students, we actually run a student Skeptic and Atheist Society, which is a little bit different from a Skeptics in the Pub. Probably the biggest challenges we face is students that literally know nothing about skepticism at all. So, for example, we've got George Hard playing next week, which for us is amazing, but they're sort of they see it as just another gig. And also, sadly, sometimes some opposition from religious societies who are maybe taking down our posters and things like that. So just wondering if anyone's come up against similar challenges with students and has any ideas.
I think in general the talks we get are quite accessible. I think I guess they do tend to nip into something like homeopathy and just take it as read that everyone understands what it is. But I don't think that happens too much. I think most of the talks tend to be quite accessible from people, just intelligent people, not necessarily having a deep knowledge of what's going on behind it.
Yeah, it's the sort of the science literate non-scientist is kind of how a lot of speakers, what we say to speakers, try and pitch their talk to when they're not when they haven't done a skeptics talk before. They say, what's the crowd like? So they're science literate, but they might not be working scientists. I'm not a working scientist. I haven't done science since I was 16 or something. So I find that most of our speakers have come in and just given a fairly entry level talk, which has then gone into different areas, but they don't take too much as read. Especially because I think a lot of the people we've had speaking, by and large, haven't necessarily been specifically from a skeptics in the pub circuit, but have been from different areas and are used to giving different talks to different groups of people. So it's about picking your speakers, really. But I think most speakers will be able to give an entry into something, into a topic, quite well.
And in terms of opposition from religious groups, use it, turn it back on them and use it to your advantage. It's a bit difficult if they're tearing your posters down, but you saw the way Marsh read out those emails. He uses the emails of complaints, as many people do, just to prove the opposition are complete cranks.
Yeah, it's handy.
And they lose the argument for you. You don't need to do much.
And just one other thing following on on what Marsh said about how the speaker pitches it. Make sure they're aware of the level. I have been to some talks where the speaker has come in and given a very, very high, a very, very detailed level, far too way above the audience's heads, and nobody liked it. It was an interesting subject, but nobody liked it because they just didn't understand it.
Yeah, definitely.
Although you get that with some people with any of the talks. You get that.
Hi again, me, Big Mouth. I've got 2 suggestions for students and people, because I used to do a lot of activism work. Firstly, don't use posters. They're a waste of money, and they'll get torn down, they'll get damaged and vandalised, and you can do a limited amount of them, but put them up. But business card-sized details of where the regular event is held, contact details, and a little disclaimer or just description of what you are. Keep them in your pocket, and every time you meet somebody who's right thing, just give it to them. They're a lot cheaper to print out, and they're a lot easier to do, so they're better at campaign tactics. Because posters, people will ignore them, they're too busy doing whatever they do. If you talk to somebody and you've got a card, they'll be rummaging through their pockets and they go, oh, I remember that, and that's a much better way of doing it. That's the first thing. The second thing is, if you want to save yourself time doing the printing and you want to have fun, a lot of universities, during the 2004 election in the States for the Democrats, which we screwed up, that's another story, we did a lot of chalking, and basically you send out a bunch of students, do it for a night, take some beers and some whatever, and basically find places near the universities where there's lots of pavement areas, and chalk about your event. Write it up and do it on the ground. It washes away. They can't complain about vandalism. You can say, if they complain about it, say, okay, we'll come and wash it off later for you, but we got noticed. Get some chalk out there and write it on the floor, not on the walls, because that always gets them annoyed for some reason. But do it on the pavements and whatever, and mark out, we have an event tonight. Make some kind of controversial, funny statement or something on it as well, and have fun. And if you've got an artist, really use them. Get them out there and do something, radically shocking and attention-grabbing and fun. And that's 2 really cheap and effective ways of getting some publicity. I'm just throwing them out there.
That's true. I'd probably temper the word shocking in there a little bit, because I think the last thing you really want to do when you sort of talk about skepticism is, if you try and go out to be too shocking, you'll turn a lot of people off.
I didn't mean shocking in that
radicalised, but yeah.
I mean basically attention grabbing.
Yeah.
One thing we used to do was because the Democrats have the Democrats have a mascot, which is the ass. So we used the slogan that was, our mascot is an ass, not our president. We used that as our slogan, and that got us a lot of attention. It was quite controversial, but it did get people to go, oh, these guys are funny, they're entertaining, and I want to hang out with them. And because, like, you to go back to what you were saying about the welcoming thing, I think that's a really good way of drawing together the welcoming feeling, but also I want to hang out with these guys because they're kind of cool. So anyway,
sorry, can I just ask, how do you communicate the welcoming thing to people before they arrive? Is it just on the website, or?
No, but actually we should. We have people tweeting us directly because they know who we are, or emailing us and saying, I'd like to come, but I feel self-conscious. In which case, I just say, introduce yourself to the person on the desk, and then either me or Peter know the people who we can choose from the room who will be willing to sit down and have a drink with a stranger.
Okay.
But it should. You're right. I mean, it should be one of the main things on the website, really, that we should say to people.
I think. Did you have a question before, James? You had your hand up ages, and we ignored you flat.
One in the back corner as well. As I'm talking down here, places like Vistaprint do free business cards. If you have their advert on the back, you can get free cards.
But it's spam the shit out of them.
It's not for free here, yes.
Sorry, no, I was just going to make a quick suggestion. When you did all the people who want to start new Skeptics in the pubs today, why not see where they are geographically, see if we could know anyone else geographically? Because, in this room we know loads of people who are involved in Skeptics in the pub. Why don't we see if we can figure where people are geographically?
Probably because we've only got 3 minutes left.
Yeah.
But if you email this address, I can send you. If anyone that's setting up a new one, just email me on this address, and I'll send out the form for you. There's a lady right there, the blonde lady right at the back as well. After, yes, Hayley first.
Hayley.
Hello. Oh, hi, Hayley.
Hello.
You have to stand. We can't see you.
Oh, okay. I organised Bath Skeptics. We're quite new. We're launching next month. We're going to be doing the socials for a while. And at the moment we're working on getting a free stall at the Glastonbury Festival.
So just really, as you're wrapping up, just a quick message to anybody who organises Skeptics in the Pub groups or anything like that, that if they have anything they want us to put on the store about, because obviously people will be coming to Glastonbury from all over, so that's a great way maybe of us pushing your local groups. And also with regards to the posters do work. I work, but it may be worth, if people are tearing your posters down, put that into your poster, kind of quirky line saying, please don't remove this poster.
Yeah, or get us before the religious tear us down.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, just try and work that into the marketing rather than letting it stop your marketing.
That way, into the corner. There you go.
This is just something for the student group. What we did, because I ran a small society in uni, was we actually linked up with bigger groups who would have had kind of overlapping interests. So if you're doing a talk on libel, do it with the Law Society, Homeopathy, MedSoc, and then you can use their money, their advertising and their supporters to boost your own event and get some really, really good publicity. And then if people are tearing down your posters, they're not going to do that to a bigger society who's got more clout. So it might be nice just for some to team up and go into it together. You know?
Well, team up with your local alternative medicine society and sneak in a speaker in opposition.
But teaming up with other societies, particularly at university, I'm sure would be a great idea. 'Cause I mean, I know you'd be teaming up for single events. I'm sure if you can get those people through the door, then you might have a decent return rate if you can get actually MedSoc people to come along. Because there must be a fantastic overlap that people just don't really know what skepticism is, but the overlap between the sort of the medicine and the law and politics grads and philosophy, there must be a nice sort of fertile area there, surely.
You need a Venn diagram, I think.
I was drawing one in my. I have a pen and everything, but I just was intimating it through the power of mime.
Do we need to leave it here?
What time we set to wrap up, Alex? Well, set to wrap. We've got another 9 minutes actually. We have.
Okay, I thought the next one would start at 12:30.
Actually, does the next one?
We'll pick you because you're a longer walk for Alan.
Oh, actually,
it was actually just picking up something the lady was saying earlier on about having events, and I run in Edinburgh, took up doing Skeptics in the Cafe and book reading, because I like reading books. We all have a get together. It's much more relaxed. It's not a lecture where you sit and being talked at. You're actually, everyone's coming in and contributing. It's called Skeptics Between the Covers.
Nice, yeah.
That was Ben's idea, and Skeptics in the Cafe. But it is also quite nice because people come along, maybe they don't know somebody, it's a bit more informal, so they can come along and then you can bring them to the Skeptics in the Pub event and they know some people. And also people who have kids, it's not an evening, they don't have to get babysitter in the evening, they can come along for a couple of hours, you can drop in, go out again, so it's like 3 or 4 hours. There's no sets, you have a start and end time, but you can stay for 10 minutes, you can stay for 3 hours, and that's quite a good way to sort of spread different things.
And I think local breaks groups, fertile ground maybe for getting new people.
I was actually wondering, if we did set up a daytime group, do you think any speakers would be interested in coming to do a talk in the daytime? Because I actually live just outside Leicester, and I've not made one Skeptics in the Pub meet yet. Because, I've got kids. And just to dismiss that whole group of people who might not be able to make a pub meet for maybe 10 years of their life, that's a big group of people.
Yeah. I mean, if you wanted to set up, whatever. I mean, you'd certainly get encouragement from me to do that.
We had events in Liverpool and Manchester where it was sort of in a coffee shop and just a few people gathered. It wasn't a big speaker kind of thing, but I'm sure if there's enough demand there in terms of audience, I'm sure you'd be able to, without a problem, find speakers able to come.
I'm sure probably get an audience of a size, but whether we get anybody to actually, obviously, people have jobs and things like that they do in the daytime, so we do it Sunday afternoon. Yeah.
You live near Leicester, Simon will do it, it's fine. Right, we've got 1 more minute, I think, so it's probably last question.
Hi, it's Tim from Sheffield Skeptics in the Pub. We've been running about 14 months now, and generally pretty successfully. The only thing I'd say we've struggled with is really engaging in sort of social activities with our regular attendees. The schedule we have is fairly tight. People come, a speaker starts, they have a 20-minute break, and then there's Q&A. And then at the end of the Q&A, people disappear. So would you have any tips for, I mean, we're starting to get there now, I feel, but would you have any tips for improving the sort of social aspect within a fairly tight schedule?
Yeah, I found that quite difficult as well. I mean, having a good pub helps, and having a good speaker helps, because people stay around and talk about it afterwards. Because our pub's bad, we've actually got people that go to another pub. There's groups forming of people that go to this other pub. But it's obviously more difficult to take a lot of new members with us each time we do it.
Yeah, I mean,
we've
never really had a problem.
Pub helps.
We've never really had a problem with that in Liverpool, and I don't know whether it's because once you had a few sort of core people that start coming along and you start getting to know them fairly well, and I presume there'll be a fair number of people there that you know fairly well who you'll sort of socialise with, but maybe they won't socialise between each other and in wider groups. It is that case of, like, the welcoming kind of thing. You get people out there and you say, right, you just go, there's a group of people sat by themselves there, go talk to them, just have a pint with them, and you'll find that that's sort of sending people to go and do that, or just having people wandering around with a smile on their face, chatting to people, will start to engender that. But yeah,
I think another thing that's quite important is you don't have too large a pub. Because I mean, what I really tried when we were getting about 40 people when we started, I tried to find a room for 35. And people get to know each other a little bit better that way. If you've got too large a pub, then they're not sharing tables, and people aren't getting to know each other. So I think the other thing that it does is it makes the place look incredibly successful. A place for 35 with 37 in it and 2 having to stand in the doorway is a really successful event. But a place for 200 with 45 people in it is a failure. But it's perceived that way, so it's useful to get the venue size right. Have we got?
I think Eugenie's going to be on in about 4 minutes on the main stage, and I'm guessing everyone wants to see that going on.
Yeah,
so we should probably wrap up there, I think.